Hi, I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. Welcome to today's virtual reading of the names. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. As part of our commemoration, we'll host an in-person reading of the names at the wall from November 7th through 10th, 2022, when all 58,281 names on the wall will be read aloud. In the lead up to that event, we'll be reading names each day online while sharing the photos of these heroes. For our daily virtual reading, the names of the service members will be read by month and day of death between the years 1956 and 1975 in alphabetical order for the given day. We apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Know that our readers are doing their best to honor these service members. We hope you'll listen and watch each day and share with others as we remember and honor those who gave their lives during the Vietnam War.
Richard Carl Alexander, Robert Allen Anspach, Alfredo Eduardo Avies, Charles Alfred Baker, Ernest Lee Beam, Ronald Lee Black, Alan Scott Bohr, Ernest R. Brownlow III, Creed Lorenzio Bryant, Dennis John Bullock, Alden John Bullwinkle, Joseph Samuel Burris III, Gilberto Bustamante, Reginald Tyrone Bird, Randy Graham Cagle, John Holmes Camp Jr., Cecil Wayne Carruthers, Bruce Landon Carter, Wayne Edward Christopher, Roy Cisneros, Eldon Dean Caldron Jr., Joe Cooper, Jerry Don Copeland, John Gerard Coolin Jr., Bruce Wayne Crabb, Thomas Dale Culp, Gary Francis Sisowski, Richard Gale Daniels, Philip Frank DeFazio, Charles William Depp, Jerry Brian Evans, Woodrow Johnson Ewald Jr., Kenneth Wayne Fields, Michael Thomas Finch, Stephen Romo Ford, Stephen Robert Fries, Dale Stephen Folk, William Joseph Gagner, Jesus Maria Garcia, William Arnold Gibbs, Bruce Stewart Gibson, Joe Gillespie, Gary Bruce Glassford, John Philip Gogan, Joseph Louis Gulk Jr., Roland Allen Gorshbooth, Leonard Olson Graves, Neil Norman Grenke, Gary Joseph Halverson, Robert Lee Harley, Roger Danny Helwig, W. Cole Herndon, Andrew Jacob Hinderman, James Kenneth Hoyes, David Keith Huffman, Philip Lee Inman, Earl Ellister Irving Jr., Michael Thomas Ivory, Larry Wayne Johnson, Charles Allen Johnson, Larry Johnson, Gordon Michael Johnson, Davies Lee Jones, Michael John Kilduff,
Richard Nicholas Cluse, James William Knight, James Leonard Nobles, Evaras Lama, Brycey Elrod Lamb, Larry Raymond Lambert, Albert Louis Lazaroto, Larry Douglas Ledbetter, Larry Lee Lisco, Armando Lopez, Lonnie Eugene Lundy, Alejandro McIntyre, Paul Wayne Manseer, Harold Joseph Matthews Jr., Albert McDonald Jr., Thomas R. McDonald Jr., George Franklin McGee, George William McGee, Michael Thomas McGlone, Michael Ryan McClendon, Danny Ray Metz, Cyril Mitchell Jr., Sherman Dalton Monk, Michael A. Montellano, Calvin Moultrie, Joseph Eugene Muir, Richard Rocco Mullen, Nelson Denfield Neal, Barney King Neal Jr., Douglas Allen Niebuhr, Michael David Knoll, Michael Ralph R. Odom, Alfredo Pacolba, John Everett Paddock, David Oliver Painter, Willie James Payne, Russell Alfred Peterson, Gaylord Dean Peterson, Kestudis A. Petroskas, Glenn Ross Phillips Jr., Bernard Herbert Plassmeyer, James Ralph Potter, Dallas Ratliff, Glenn Revelle, Marion C. Robb, Thomas Warren Roberts, Marvin Ray Robinson, Tillman David Rogers Jr., Charles Brent Ross, Heinz Ruchti, Jerry Van Ryan, Benicio Frederick Santucci, Robert Lee Scott, Billy Joe Scott, David Allen Scritchfield, Dennis Wayne Shue, William Slade, Philip Edward Slaughter, Thomas Leroy Smith, John Lewis Smith, Douglas Mark Smith, Thomas David Smith, Curtis Orrin Smith Jr., Stephen Dwayne Sparks Sr.,
Fred Concerto Spina, Roger Horace Stearns, Thomas William Steele, Dow E. Stepp, Emery Capers Sullivan III, Lonnie Melrose Swenson, Echos Dizo Zekli, Eugene Costella Tibbs, Franz Tynes, Michael James Tomlinson, James David Travis, Jr., Alfred Joseph Tuttle, Frank Vallone, Harry L. Van Alst, Jr.,
Richard Haven Van Dyke,
Gary Allen Waldorf, Patrick Michael Ward, Johnny Lee Ward, William Edward Warwick III, Toby Jack Watkins, Thomas Edward Welker, Owen White, Jr., Patrick Anthony Whitten, Robert Paul Weisneth, Frederick Wilhelm,
Jimmy Walker Youngs,
Robert Joseph Zarelli.